When my daughter was born, my mom got really into gift giving. She brought over bags of clothes, books, vintage baby blankets, you name it. One thing she was especially proud of was this plush Firefly she found at a local thrift store. It wasn't anything high-end, just an old school toy with stitched eyes and little fabric wings. When you pressed its belly, the wings would light up and it would play classical music, mostly Beethoven lullabies. She said she'd seen one like it years ago and always had wanted to find another. I honestly thought it was kind of cute, in a weird, nostalgic kind of way. I ended up liking it more than my daughter did. It mostly stayed tucked in with her other toys in the living room or on the floor near the playpen. For context, I'm a night owl. I usually work late into the night after everyone's gone to bed. Most nights I'll look up from my laptop and realize it's 2 or 3 in the morning. It's quiet, peaceful, my time to actually get things done. But then the Firefly started to go off by itself. The first time I assumed it was our cat. The button on its belly was pretty sensitive, so I figured she must have walked across it. It lit up and started playing For Elise around 1 a.m. It scared the hell out of me, honestly. I didn't think much of it at the time, just a jump scare in the middle of the night. But then it seemed to happen again, and again. Never earlier, never during the day, and never when my daughter was actually playing with it. Just during those late, quiet hours, when I was alone, tired, and mentally checked out from the day. At first I laughed it off, told myself it was probably just loose wiring or something. It was sort of an antique after all. I even mentioned it to my husband one morning, half joking. He just shrugged and said maybe it was glitchy. Then one night it got worse. I was working on a project. I was kind of tense already for no real reason. I was just stressed for my deadline. The baby monitor was quiet. The cat was asleep on the couch. And the house was wrapped in that kind of thick silence. Around 1:30 a.m., the Firefly lit up again, but the sound was warped. It was off. It wasn't the usual Beethoven tune. The music was distorted, like it was slowed down or the tape was getting chewed up. But then out of nowhere, in a muffled, almost inaudible voice, I heard it say, "That wasn't very nice." I just froze. This thing normally did just play songs, but it did also have some built-in phrases. That wasn't one of them. And that voice was not part of the toy. I'd never heard anything like that come out of it before. It sounded too specific, like it was responding to something. My chest tightened immediately, like someone had just dropped a cold weight on it. I didn't even unplug the thing. I just shut my laptop down, turned off the lights, and went straight to bed. The whole way down the hallway, I kept getting that feeling you get when you know something is walking behind you, standing just outside your peripheral vision. I didn't sleep much that night. Next morning, I told my husband I was done with it. He took the batteries out and tossed it in the bin in the garage. My mom then ended up selling it at a garage sale not long after. She thought it was harmless. I half joked that she should have warned any other buyers. But deep down, I hoped it was just something weird that only ever happened around me. Maybe it was a malfunction. Maybe it was stress. I'm not saying it was anything supernatural, but I've had a lot of late nights since then. Same lighting, same silence, same routine, same toys still scattered around the room. And none of them have ever operated out of random. Never said anything to me. Not like that one did. So I've always been to antique stuff. I like the feeling of having pieces in my home that have history. Furniture that once had another home. Art that meant something to someone long ago. My apartment's kind of a cozy mess of that vibe. I guess it just makes me feel more grounded. Anyway, a few months ago, I picked up this old painting of a boy at a local antique mall. I found it tucked behind this giant wooden hutch, like someone had just put it there and forgotten about it. The woman running the place didn't even seem to be aware it was actually there. She didn't seem to care much and let it go for pretty cheap. It's a portrait of a young boy, probably 8 or 9. It's done in this faded, soft oil style. He's got a stiff collared shirt, a buttoned vest, and that weirdly serious look you see in really old photos. Something about his eyes felt strange. Not creepy, just very human. Crazy enough, I brought it home, as I felt drawn to it, and I hung it up above my sofa. For the first week or 2, it was just another piece of old art. But over time, I started noticing small things. And I do mean small. Nothing dramatic. Just tiny differences. There were some days his expression seemed a little different. Or maybe his eyes were a little more tired. I chalked it up to lighting, or my own imagination. But it kept happening. Enough that I started to take mental notes. His expression seemed to shift, depending on the time of day, or maybe even my mood, although it was very subtle. I don't know if that makes sense, but again, nothing extreme, but enough to give me that weird, someone's looking at me feeling, even though I knew logically it was just a painting. I never did feel threatened by it. It was more like he was silently observing, kind of a sad presence, if anything. Now there's another painting I've had for years, one I picked up at a completely different place. It's smaller, but it's always unsettled me a bit. It's not of a person, just a dim Victorian parlor. There's a fireplace, a lace curtain, and a big chair with a porcelain doll sitting in it. That's it, but it's the way it's painted. It feels like something's just off, like the room's waiting for someone to walk back in, or like someone was standing just out of view when it was painted. My mom, for some reason, hates that painting. She's super intuitive about stuff like that, and every time she comes over, she refuses to be in the same room with that painting. She said it made her feel sick. She didn't like the boy painting either, but the parlor one bothered her more. She never really explained why, just avoided both and wouldn't look directly at them. There was one night when I was half asleep on the couch, and I thought I heard something faint, like a floorboard shifting, or maybe even a whisper. But I might have just been dreaming. I didn't feel scared, but I also definitely didn't feel alone. I haven't moved either painting still. I feel like they belong here in some weird way, like they found their place. I guess I've made peace with them. I'm not trying to flat out say anything about this is haunted. I don't believe in that kind of stuff most days. But these 2 pieces, they're definitely different. And I've learned just to respect that. I work part-time at a vintage consignment shop in an old brick building downtown. It's the kind of place people come to browse. Dusty shelves, ticking clocks, aisles full of the past. We rent out vendor booths to sellers, who then fill their spaces with everything from estate sale finds to handmade goods. Most of the time it's peaceful. Still. But there's this one hallway near the back of the shop that's different. We don't talk about it much, but almost every vendor who stayed long enough has had something happen there. There's one couple, a husband and a wife, who's been selling with us for years. They're good people, kind of no nonsense, always setting up their booth together like a little project. One evening, they stayed after closing to reorganize some holiday inventory. The hallway near their booth was lined with a few seasonal trays, some garland, and a bunch of vintage Christmas ornaments in those delicate glass bulbs. It was quiet until they heard the unmistakable sound of something rolling. Those ornaments tapping and spinning on the wood floor. They turned around, thinking the tray must have been bumped somehow, but they swore nothing was near it. They watched, frozen as the tray slowly lifted off the table. Lifted, not wobbled. Then all at once, every ornament flew off the tray in different directions like they had been pushed. I guess I believe what they said because they don't stay late anymore. They won't even walk to that part of the shop after dark. Another vendor set up a booth in the same hallway a few months later. She had brought in a ton of items from a recent estate sale. There was furniture, clocks, trinkets, a stack of old music boxes. Beautiful things, but almost in a strange kind of way. A few of us joked that the stuff felt charged, sort of heavy. Not long after, the weird started again. Late at night, when only one or two of us were still in the building, you would hear the faint clinking of music playing from her booth. Just one box at first, sometimes two, and other times the clocks would start chiming. Never together, never at the right times. One would ding, another would strike half an hour off, and then silence. But the worst event was when a framed painting flew off the wall. It was mid-afternoon. Two customers were browsing, one near the front and the other farther back by the hallway. The frame didn't just fall. It wasn't just bumped. It launched. It smashed a glass vase sitting on a shelf across the room. The customer near it ran out of the store without saying a word, and I don't recall ever seeing her again. After that, footsteps started. Quiet ones. You could be in the front locking up and hear slow pacing from the back, like someone just casually walking between the booths, but dragging their steps just enough to let you know that they were still there. Eventually, we told the vendor what had been happening. She didn't seem too shocked. Said the estate had belonged to a woman who'd lived there alone for years. The vendor took everything back out within a week, sold what she could, donated the rest. Ever since, the hallway's been still again. Not exactly warm and inviting, but neutral, like something did in fact leave. I don't know what I believe, but I lock up quickly now, and I never, ever walk that hallway without turning the lights on first, just in case.